Barry, obviously able to move the ball really well. What happened of not being able to convert once you got on their side of the field?
Yeah, we just didn't execute, and with a couple of play calls and just within the play calls of the execution, it just wasn't good enough for us to, get the points that we needed to get to win the football game. So, moving the ball is just half that. The most important part is figuring out a way to score and score touchdowns and not have field goal opportunities, and that's certainly an area that we came up short in on Friday night.
For the fourth down call, what was your perspective as you look back on it?
Yeah, certainly one I'd like to have back. It kind of got in that awkward area where you're so close to the goal line, but you're still like a yard and a half, and I didn't put our guys in a position to succeed, and that's something that I've got to own and certainly have and will, and learn from it, and the next opportunity to have to be better prepared to give our guys a chance to punch the ball in the end zone. That's the bottom line.
Coach, kind of a big picture question, but the offense that we're seeing here in the first two games, is this the same scheme that you ran at UTSA, or is there input, from the head coach and considerations with the type of skill sets that you have?
Oh, yeah, it's the same offense, for sure. I mean, it's the stuff that, when I was there, where I was at in the previous place, that we ran and had a lot of success with. But I mean, if you watch each week, it's going to look different. I mean, from when you pull up the film from when I was at San Antonio, each week looked different. And so, but it's the same offense, and coaches, repeatedly empowered me to have the influence on the offense. Obviously, he's the head football coach, and there's things that that we do and say, just like I did with Jeff Traylor when I worked for him. We said, hey, what do do you like this, or do you like? Are you good with this? Those types of things that I think happen in every organization, when you have a head football coach that's an overseer of the program. But he has repeatedly, continually empowered me to have the influence on the offense with the help of the staff that we have on offense. And so, for sure, it's the same one that I had previously done before I came here.
Coach, when you have a close loss like that, how do you prevent it from being a hangover type thing for the next game? How do you get it out of the guys' head and you guys as coaches? Yeah,
I mean, you have to flush it, right? I mean, it's part of the game, especially the unique nature of, the hard part about our business and our game is that there is only 12 opportunities. I was a former baseball player myself too, and sometimes you would lose a tough one and you turn right around and play an hour later, and so you had to have a little bit of a quicker flush of that, so to speak. So it can linger if you're not careful, and the heartbreak and the disappointment, I think, that we all felt, every one of us, you just deal with it face to face, and you just, like you do in life with adversity, you just got to deal with it. You can't be an ostrich about it. You got to look at it and say, where I failed, where I came up short, what we did well. There were certainly a lot of things that did go well during the course of the game, and you learn from both of those factors. You watch the film, you talk about the corrections, boom, you're done with it, move on to Virginia. And that's what we've done, and our guys have done a great job of responding to us in that regard.
With Julian being a late scratch, what did you see out of the offensive line and how they kind of piece it together?
Well, it was late, and I thought they handled it really well in the big scheme of things. I mean, just for it to happen as late as it did during the course of the week, and for limited amount of practice to adjust, I thought it was really impressive that our guys were able to get up there and we ran the ball as effectively as we did at times, and we had a couple little protection challenges, but we really protected the quarterback overall pretty well from top to bottom, and just a couple schematic things that maybe got us a little bit, but I thought those guys did a pretty admirable job of stepping in on kind of short notice.
Coach, have you got a chance to watch the Richmond-Virginia game yet? What do you see about the Virginia defense?
Yeah, well, I think obviously their defensive coordinator has come from Air Force and had a really strong tradition of having some excellent defenses, and so we got a chance to watch that game, not only kind of as it was transpiring, but obviously through the video part of it as well. And so I think you see a very systematic approach to defense that very multiple in a lot of ways. Very, I think, very calculated about being multiple from a defensive perspective. A lot of respect for what they're doing. They'll be going in game 2 in their new system, and so obviously that's a big, usually an area that you really see a lot of improvement and communication, those types of things. I thought they played really good defense the first game. And you can see that they've got some talent.
Barry, I know that Chase is your most productive offensive player so far, but have you thought about what you can do to try to better help him get to the finish line of games when he's got 36 carries and your next highest carry I think was like 8? Is that not the balance that you want in the running back room?
Yeah, I think that's something that we're certainly that we need to address and talk through and develop a plan there, because you know, especially as he is and as tough as he is in the Big Ten, and you're not going to be able to get away with doing that on the long haul, just from a health standpoint. Nothing catastrophic, but just over the course of time, it's going to be hard to not, that'd be a challenge for him. I know he feels like he's up to it, and he is to a large degree, but we've got to help spread that out a little bit and get other guys involved in that. It certainly wasn't calculated the way that unveiled the other night, but the game was kind of so tight and he had been running so well. I think that's kind of where we all felt like we needed to go, and something we'll look back at once you get detached from the game and say, okay, we've got to figure out how to take a little bit off of him here and there as we continue to feature his skill.
Is there anything you can pinpoint for the drops that some of the receivers had when you went back on film?
Our guys have done a nice job catching the ball, and we had, I think ball placement, it was I think it was a collective effort. If you just watch the film, you watch the game, you're like, man, like, we got to make the play. Like as a coach, you want to give them some strong correction there, like to some real clear advice. But at the end of the day, you got to have a little bit better of a throw, and we got to finish the catch on some of those. And that's really what it came down to. Our guys have done a nice job attacking the football, made some tough contested catches, and obviously there's a couple that we could have pulled down as part of the game. Those are part of the mistakes. And you look at the end of the game, like whether it's a mental error or a decision by the quarterback or a play call that you would like back that can affect the game negatively. And we got to all learn from those moments and move forward here and going into week 3.
So would you evaluate how Tommy's managing and running your offense so far?
Well, I think he's doing really well with that. I think the management part of it, I thought one of the things that stuck out to me the other day, I thought I would give him an A+ for his competitiveness in the game the other night. I mean, we challenged him going into the game that he don't be afraid to use your legs, and I thought he did a phenomenal job competing and giving us a chance there, and then he made some really nice throws and decisions, and there's obviously just like every other player that played in that game and every other coach that was participating in the game, there's some things that you would say, man, if we could have just done this, there's no perfect player, there's no perfect coach, but we're striving for that, continually. And so from my perspective, the management, the toughness, the competitiveness, and it was all there, and a lot of the throws were there. And if we could just connect on a couple more of those, it could have been the difference, might be the difference in the game, among other things, So I think I really like where he's at. I like the way he's playing. I think he's getting more and more comfortable, and we're going to continue to empower him to have an impact on the game as we get going here.
Barry, how would you describe those, Coach B described as on a Saturday or Sunday after a loss, and in those meetings of how it was going to be productive, in a way to flush it, but also,
well, I know. Yeah, so I think Coach has done a great job with that. He's been a head coach for a long time. I can't remember if it's 13 or 14 years as a head coach. He's seen a lot. He's seen a lot of heartbreak, a lot of disappointment, a lot of excitement, jubilation. I mean, that's the nature of this business, and so he's got a great feel on, how to handle those situations, how to, coach his team through that, how to coach his coaches through that, and so. One of the things we talked about in particular offensively was to deal with these types of situations and I challenge our guys to look in the mirror, not out the window, and that's everybody across the board. It's like, so when we watch this film and we evaluate this game, let's start with looking in the mirror and say, how could I have made a difference in this game? What could I have done differently to make it? Certainly don't want to look out the window to say, well, if he would have done this, or if that guy would have done that, or if this player would have done that. You start by looking in the mirror, and I think we got a team full of guys that took that approach. I know we have a staff and a coaching staff and a player unit that have just all approached it that way. And I think when you do that, that's when you really grow. And so I've been really appreciative and respectful, or have respected the way our players have gone about doing it, and our staff.
Game planning this week, Coach. What would you say are some keys for your offense?
Well, taking care of the ball, that's an obvious, clear and obvious one. We've got to take care of the ball, and we got to have touchdowns and not field goals in the red zone area. If we can do those two things as we continue to develop, in our system and kind of get a little clearer picture of who we are and what we're going to be, there's some moments and some glimpses of us being a really good team on offense, and but we got to do that. We got to stop doing the things that negatively affect us from executing. You know, our ultimate goal is to get a touchdown.
What was your view of the Hightower catch?
I didn't have much of a view, you know. As a play caller, I kind of try to move on a little bit, you know, and kind of think through the worst case scenario. Where's the ball going to be if this doesn't get overturned? And you know, I stay in my lane in that regard. I know Brian competed for the ball in a really strong manner, made a great play on the ball, and gave his very best to pull that thing down. And I appreciated his efforts on that. And unfortunately, we came up a little short there.
Can you walk through what was maybe the shortcomings on that fumble, that backwards pass fumble? Was it collective or kind of how that?
Yeah, it was a perfect. Started with me, like, you know, it was like I didn't like the play call in that particular situation. I don't mind the play call in general. It's something I believe in, or wouldn't have called it, but like just the details of the execution, you know, just the look we did it against, you know. Obviously, we're never designing any of those to go backwards, but it was right on plane, and it was probably an accurate call. I mean, it's just something when we put it in, we can't leave that in the officials. That's the bottom line. We cannot leave that into the officials' interpretation of is it a lateral or to the fan, to the naked eye either. You know, you don't want to leave that, oh, is that a lateral or is that a, you know, a forward pass? And certainly we work hard on practice in that. Something that we got to get addressed and not ever let that, you know, unveil itself again for us, because it was obviously a very negative play for us in that field zone and in that situation. It could have been the difference in the game. So that starts with me and ends with me in that regard, and we'll get that cleaned up. Something we'll continue to use, but we got to clean up the details within that.
Barry, after the Hightower review, you ran the running back toss pass. What was that discussion like? Because it seemed like you had a lot of time to figure out what you wanted to do, and you seemed like that was the perfect time to maybe catch Indiana off guard on that. And other than not catching it, you executed it pretty well.
Well, if I remember correctly, though, there was a play in between that, right? So we ran a play. We were 2nd and 10. We ran a toss and gained 8 and got it to 3rd and 2. And then based on the response that I'd seen from them on film and off the previous toss, I thought that would be an opportunity to kind of regain that momentum for us that we'd lost through the review maybe. And, you know, we'd practiced and executed in practice, and it got disrupted. You know, if it wouldn't have gotten disrupted, it'd have been a pretty easy one, to be honest with you, because they triggered, and you know, the play just kind of got disheveled. I thought Chase did a great job of giving us an opportunity, and just, you know, that little swing of 3 plays there, you know, we left 4 points on the board, and you know, through a red zone failure there, and that's something that, you know, could have been the difference, would have been the difference in the game. And so I think we're all, you know, understanding the significance and gravity of those situations, and we're learning from that. And next time we get down there, hopefully we'll do better.
Do you feel like you need to get more from the tight end position, Coach?
I love the way the tight ends played the other night. I mean, as far as just their competitiveness and to their the toughness, and you know, again, like we go in the game, and you know, a lot of the passing game stuff, you know, whether it be you know, his first play of the game, Tip got one on a misdirection bootleg, and then there were some other opportunities that within the course of the read that, you know, we misconnected on one through Tip through the. I think if we can just execute the ones that present themselves, they're going to give us what we need from that. And there'll be times where there'll be a lot more opportunities for them. Sometimes there'll be less. I mean, it's just the way the game flows. You know, it kind of depends on that, but. Primarily for us, the biggest thing they have to do is to continue to operate as an extension of our run game in the C gap. And I thought the other night they did a pretty admirable job in that regard. And as a group that I think we feel pretty good about as we continue to take care of the details there.
Sweet.
Last one.
Practice kind of through the week, kind of working on red zone execution. What do you kind of do and kind of emphasize there when you're kind of working on that throughout a week of practice?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we watch film and we get a plan on base what we think it presents itself, and practice those looks, and then ultimately the game usually gets in there, and it's usually something to some degree different, you know, the way it is. But so really at the end of the day, it's about your execution, your detail of your assignment, the play. Am I giving our guys a chance with the play call? You know, that's something that obviously we always have to plan and try to think through, and then are we executing with the details that we ask them to do it with? And so, you know, there is no magic formula down there. If there were, I think we would all know it. You know, it is really about, you know, executing, putting your players in a good position, which I got to do a better job of. And I'm confident that we can get that fixed. You know, we've had some really nice execution in the red zone throughout the course of the first 2 games. We've had some nice plays being made. We just got to clean up those ones that we're leaving on the table, and certainly can't turn the ball over in that field zone, whether it's by turnover or on downs, without scoring points.
Thanks, guys.